Welcome to the Cosmic Busker. My name is Bobby Cody. Extraterrestrial war against and for humanity. I want to take a look at some information. I'll just show a little bit of evidence regarding the battle that is currently and has been waged for thousands of years for the planet Earth and humanity. I've done a little bit on this before, and I'll point you to a card that will give you more information on that if you're interested. But I want to go through this right now. And first, I want to start out by looking at the work of, or the testimony of Bob Lazar. Put up a photo right there of Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar is pretty well known in the UFO community. Going to take a look right now at what he claims. Put that up right now. Lazar claims he came out in 1989. Claims he examined an alien craft that ran on an antimatter reactor powered by element 115, which at the time had not yet been synthesized. So basically, what happened is in 1989, Bob Lazar came out, claimed he had been working at Area 51, and that it was his job to reverse engineer extraterrestrial craft that had been recovered. And he would take these extraterrestrial craft, reverse engineering, which essentially means try to take them apart and figure out how they worked. And he stated that the one that he was working on utilized element 115 to produce anti-gravity in the craft. So this was 1989. And, needless to say, many people were skeptical and said, come on, it's ridiculous. But it did get pretty famous at the time. Bob Lazar is fairly well known. So now, obviously, this element 115 did not exist. We had a periodic table. There was no 115 element 115, and people said, "Come on, there is no element 115." So I'm going to post this up right now. So what happened? 14 years later, in 2003, element 115, moscovium, is a synthetic chemical element with the symbol MC and atomic number 115. It was first synthesized in 2003 by a joint team of Russian and American scientists at the Joint Institute for Nuclear Research in Dubna, Russia. So Bob Lazar claimed that this element 115 was what provided the anti-gravity capacities to this extraterrestrial craft. So I said, there's no such thing as element 115. 14 years later, he's proven right. This gives a lot of credibility to his tale. When that happens, he says element 115. People say there is no one element 115. 14 years later, you find out there is an element 115. You got to take a look back and say, hey, maybe this guy was right. And it doesn't just to give a little bit more credibility to Bob Lazar's story. If you look at Wikipedia, they'll say that there's claims he never worked at the Los Alamos laboratory or R51, etc. Well, actually, he's also a hotshot designer. He can build things. Yeah, they claim he didn't work at this place, and there's no record of him working at these places. No doubt about that. Except this one particular lab that he claimed to work at, which has him not on the records at all, also produces a newspaper, and in that newspaper where they go over their outstanding scientists, Bob Lazar is featured in it because he created this some high powered it was a jet powered race car, I think. He created it himself, a race car that was jet powered. So yeah, it appears that they scrubbed any records of him working at this place. But they got him in a newspaper for the hour saying, hey, look, our scientist did this. So, they just scrubbed all records of him working there. But, they couldn't scrub people who had copies of this flyer or newspaper that was created when he was working there, because a lot of people have different copies of it, so there's no way to get rid of that. So this gives, double credentials to Bob Lazar's story, um, and that he's speaking truth. Just a quick aside as well, that Wikipedia, if you go into Wikipedia, you'll find them making claims about his person as well. Criminal charges, this and that. Yeah, they say criminal charges, but obviously they don't say he was found guilty, number one. Number two, that's something to watch out for. Anytime anybody makes a claim that appears to go against the mainstream perception of reality, and they start attacking the person and not the claim, know that that person is almost certainly telling the truth. If the claim is false, they can just attack the claim and use evidence to say, this is false and here's why it's false. When they go after the person, they say, hey, he's a drug addict, or he's this and that, and that means they can't fight the claim the person is making. So instead, they attack the person. Okay, it's a form of propaganda that most people fall victim to. Don't fall victim to it. Once they start attacking the person and not the claim, know almost certainly that person is telling the truth. Now, I just want to go back to this real quick because I want to show something else this says that Bob Lazar says. Bob Lazar also claims to have read U.S. government briefing documents that described alien involvement in human affairs over the past 10,000 years. Okay. So he also claims to have found documents that these aliens have been involved in for 10,000 years. I've already laid out some evidence in that regard. It's called What is the Galactic Federation? I'll pop up a card right there right now, so if you're interested, you can go take a look at that video I've done called What is the Galactic Federation? I touch on that, the 10,000 years involvements in human history. But now what I want to do is take a look at something else. We also have, there was one other claim Bob Lazar did too that gives him credentials. Before I jump over to this, Bob Lazar also made the claim that in 1975, I believe the year was, that military engineers were digging down in Dulce, New Mexico to create an underground base. And as they were digging down and making explosions, they actually burrowed into an extraterrestrial base that already existed underground, and that a firefight ensued with the extraterrestrials, and that military officers involved died. Again, a seemingly outrageous claim. A few years later, a gentleman by the name of Phil Schneider, I'll pop up a photo of him right now, he came out and said, yes, that happened. I am a geologist and an explosives explosives engineer. I was the one creating the explosives to build, to burrow into the ground, and I was there when all this happened. Yes, there was this fight. I was the only one to survive, and I lost my fingers in the whole incident. And as you can see up there right now, if you take a close look at his hand that he's raising up, you can see his fingers are lost. He says he lost them in that firefight with extraterrestrials in an underground base at Dulce, New Mexico. Again, I've done a video about who is in that underground base, reptilians. That's in the What is the Galactic Federation video. So again, take a look at that if you're interested in finding out about that. So at this point, I want to go into some more evidence regarding this extraterrestrial involvement. There's There's a British tabloid that recently had an article. Now, a British tabloid, you think, come on, British tabloid. Look, British tabloids are better than CNN. I can absolutely guarantee you, they have a much better track record of being right. CNN, if you see it on CNN, you can assume the exact opposite is true 99% of the time. There's no organization that is wrong more often than CNN. So this British tabloid just had an article recently. This is the Daily Star, I believe. Special SAS unit has been trained to respond to an alien invasion of Earth. Exclusive, an elite unit of around 20 SAS soldiers is being trained to tackle a range of alternative threats, including the possibility of contact with extraterrestrials. A source told us the SAS has to be prepared for anything and any threat. That includes everything from terrorists to human bioweapons, where someone has been deliberately infected with a deadly bug, all the way through to an alien life form. I know it sounds bonkers, but the SAS train for capture missions for every threat. Now, this is something that it's almost like we're being inoculated to the potential that this is actually happening. I can assure you there's a whole bunch of information in this regard. And as I stated, as Bob Lazar made the claim, it's been 10,000 years of this. The Nordic gods like Zeus and Apollo and Aphrodite. A lot of people have speculated that these are extraterrestrials. In addition, there's the gods of the Mesopotamian culture. It was the first known culture, began around 4000 BC. These gods are Enki, Enlil. Based on my research, these appear to be two warring factions: the Zeus faction, the Enlil faction, and they've been warring against each other for dominion over humankind. Is what the evidence appears to show, and I'm going to move on to that right now. But first, what I want to show you is a photo that Michael Salla had on his YouTube channel. Michael Salla does what's called he's the founder of a field called exopolitics. He has a YouTube channel. He had this photo up on his YouTube channel, on today's YouTube channel that today's YouTube video that he posted. I'm going to post a video to that YouTube video right now, so you can go take a look at it as well. In the video, I'll just summarize real quick. He claims that extraterrestrials have been coming here and battling with humans for a long time, and it continues right now. And as part of that, he throws up this photo of an extraterrestrial with a gun in its hand, and he claims, I believe this was in Bosnia-Herzegovina during the Civil War in the old former Yugoslavia during the 90s, that was. So now what I want to turn to is, I've done some background on those who are allegedly fighting against us. There's also we also have allies, and that would be the Galactic Federation. I want to first throw up a screenshot of a book that was done. It's called The Gods of Eden. The author is William Bramley. And William Bramley, the synopsis of the book is the chilling truth about extraterrestrial infiltration and the conspiracy to keep humankind in chains. It's a brilliant book. It's well documented. A whole bunch of references. This is a scholarly book. It's a fairly easy read. The average reader will have no problem reading it. But it's well referenced. He's not making up things. He's going through historical documents and showing evidence that humankind is owned, and that there's these two. He doesn't lay out who's battling, but I'm going to lay it out based on my evidence, as I stated, that there's two extraterrestrial factions, the reptilians and the Nordics, who have been, or Orions, who have been fighting for dominion of humanity and Earth. But there's also extraterrestrials who've been trying to free us from these battling forces, and that would be the Galactic Federation. I want to lay out some evidence regarding our allies, and what they have done to try to assist us. And it's part of what William Bramley lays out as well in his The Gods of Eden book. And I want to kind of summarize it. Essentially, what he lays out is that there's, what does he call it? It's been a long time since I read his book. I forget the proper name he calls it in his book. But there, we have essentially allies who attempted to create religions, essentially ascended masters who are extraterrestrials, who came to humanity to help free us. Some of those individuals be Zoroaster, Buddha, and Jesus Christ. And that these individuals came here essentially emissaries from the Galactic Federation to try to teach humankind how to free ourselves from these extraterrestrials who have our planet and our species in chains. So what I'd like to do right now is take a look at the most recent one who came along, according to William Bramley's book, and also, you know, it's not just William Bramley. I'm certain of it at this point, based on my own research. I want to lay out what happened and how it's relative to what's going on right now. There's an individual by the name of the Count St Germain. I'll put up a photo of him right now. This Count, as a matter of fact, you see the photo of Count St Germain and what he looks like. He was very well known throughout the 1700s in royal circles and elite circles throughout Europe. He traveled all over Europe and very, very well known. All the elites and the well-to-do people knew who this guy was. Now, if you take a look at that photo, throughout the 1700s, he looked like that. He never aged. People who saw him as a kid, then when they were older, 60, 70 years later, they see Count St. Germain and he looks the same. He never aged. So it's like, a lot of people believe he was an extraterrestrial who came here to try to set in motion things in history that would free humankind. The claim has been made, and I fully agree with it, especially based on recent evidence, is that he was there at the founding of the United States Constitution. That he appeared there in the 1700s, played a huge part in working with the founding fathers and getting the Bill of Rights and the Declaration of Independence and everything created and initiated to found the United States of America, because the United States of America will be the project which would help to free humankind. In particular, things like freedom of speech, freedom of press, the freedom to assemble. All these things are freedoms that are inherent in humankind being able to free themselves from this oppressive force. Even if you don't think it's extraterrestrial, there's no question that throughout humankind's history, there has been this oppressive force that has kept humankind in chains. Dictators, kings, all these rulers who treat humankind like little better than animals, torture us, rape us, do whatever they want. And Saint Germain was there to make sure freedom of speech, freedom of press, freedom of religion, freedom to assemble, all these freedoms were included in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, to make sure that these freedoms were passed down to humanity as something that was inherent. And this set off a revolution, not just in the United States, across the world. Once the United States got the freedoms, it set off revolution. The French Revolution was next, and then there were revolutions in South America. It was a burst of freedom throughout the planet that may never have happened without the appearance of this Count St Germain, with the founding fathers making sure that they included all this in the United States Constitution. So what I would point to right now is in order for you to determine who's on whose side, who is against freedom of speech, who's against freedom of religion, not allowing religions to meet anymore, who's against freedom to assemble, who's not allowing people to assemble, who's against freedom of press, who's censoring things and taking things down. Those are the people at war with humanity. Those are people who are against you. Not a doubt in my mind, and there shouldn't be a doubt in your mind as well. So I just want to follow off real quick with Wikipedia's summarization of the Count of St. Germain, just so you can get a sense of who this count is, and that everything that I've stated, even Wikipedia agrees with me. And Wikipedia, I use Wikipedia for the basics. Anything controversial, they're going to go with the mainstream view of things, which is often wrong. But let's just see what Wikipedia says, because you'll see that even Wikipedia agrees with me, even on the controversial aspects of this. The Count St Germain was a European adventurer with an interest in science, alchemy, and the arts. He achieved prominence in European society of the mid-1700s. Prince Charles of Hesse-Kassel considered him to be one of the greatest philosophers who ever lived. Saint Germain used a variety of names and titles, an accepted practice among royalty and nobility at the time. In order to deflect inquiries as to his origins, he would make far-fetched claims such as being 500 years old, leading Voltaire to sarcastically dub him the Wonder Man, and that he is a man who does not die and who knows everything. His real name is unknown, while his birth and background are obscure. I'll leave it at that. There's the claim that he claimed to be a son of a prince from Transylvania as well. That's not thought to be the truth, though, so I'm going to end right there. So, it's very fascinating. Take this all in, understand what's going on around you within the context of all this information that I have given you. Don't take me at my word. Do your own research. I highly suggest, I'll throw it up one more time, that you read The Gods of Eden by William Bramley. It's absolutely well-documented, well-researched book. Highly suggested. And that's about it. Thanks everybody for watching. I'm going to post a link to my PayPal down below. If you could tip me, I'd appreciate it. Could use your help. Other than that, please like, share, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff. And everybody have a great day and have a great weekend. I'll be posting a new video shortly. Bye-bye.